How did the Florida State Seminoles go from almost consensus picks to repeat as ACC champions to whatever this is?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate College Football HC, a brand new mobile game that's completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. On this episode of Locked On ACC, we're going to talk about the new big picture in the ACC because the FanDuel odds for conference champion look a lot different than they did a week, especially 2 weeks ago. Is there a quarterback controversy in Tallahassee, and should there be? But we're going to start off, Kenton, Gibbs, with the reasons for this awful start by Florida State. I'm Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He's Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. Kenton, how much of whatever we've been watching during this 0-2 start is on the quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei?
I would say about 30%. I'd say about 30% of it is on DJ. And here's why I say about 30% is on DJ. Quick question, Donno. We all know that DJU is not the guy through the air now, right? How many times do you think they ran the ball with players not named DJU? How many times do you think Florida State did that?
15 times?
15. That's such an interesting answer. The actual answer is 8. Keziah Holmes, 1 carry. Lawrence Tofili, all conference back, 1 carry. Roydale Williams, 3 carries. Cam Davis, 3 carries. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that their running game was world-beating stuff, because even if you take away sack yardage and all that, and you only account for what the running backs alone did, you're looking at 8 carries for 26 yards. Not a fantastic blowing them out the water type of deal, but I'll be damned if you can't figure out something in terms of, hey, we have to get guys the ball more in the quick game. We have to get guys the ball more in stuff that's going to be wide open, stuff that's going to be short. And don't get me wrong, DJ was missing wide open throws, like the one that I believe it was the smash concept in the red zone, and the slot receiver broke wide open because whatever zone BC was in, the outside corner and the safety both came down hard on the receiver on the end. And so the corner was wide open. It was as open as the day is long, and he missed. So I'm not saying, oh, DJ isn't to blame. It's a bad culture and bad play calling, and DJ's fine. DJ has a hand in it. But offensively, the offensive line getting pushed around and bullied. Like, I like Donovan Ezeraku a lot. I think that he's one of the most underrated pass rushers in the ACC, if not the nation. I give a ton of credence to, the fact that at the end of the day, teams have more film on you and all that. But has this offensive line looked good to you, even in the running game? Have they impressed you at all? So no. I'm confused as to how doesn't matter what talent you have around you, it's the quarterback. And I don't even want to get started on the defense, which even including the 60-plus point trouncing, where you basically put out your JV team because everybody who was anywhere near being drafted sat out. All we saw the last year, average of giving up 150 yards on the ground per game. This year, you're over 200. You're over 200 yards allowed per game. This is insanity. Is DJ supposed to get in there and do run fits? Is he? I'm not understanding. Is he supposed to be filling a B gap somewhere that I didn't know about? When did we add that to the list of rules and responsibilities for quarterbacks? So DJ is a problem. I'm not going to say he's been a net positive. He's definitely been a net negative. That is for sure. But he's not the only problem. And to scapegoat him as the only problem, bench him. If you believe he's that much of a problem. But I know that they won't, because they know he's a problem, not the problem.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where it's like, Maybe, and I know the Boston College fans who watch Locked On ACC are like, hey, like you guys need to spend more time talking about BC, and we will, because Boston College had to go into Doak Campbell Stadium and go get that win. First game with a new head coach, Bill O'Brien, which is already a signature win for him in his short time so far at Chestnut Hill. But it's like we had to lead off with Florida State and their issues, because when you have a team like the Seminoles, who again, nearly consensus favorites to win the ACC this year, they're 2-touchdown favorites in both of their first two games. It got up to 16.5 Florida State favorite against Boston College prior to last night. And you lose both those games with uninspired performances. Yeah, Florida State's issues are the lead there. I thought that an X post by TJ Pittenger, who covers Florida State and does college football addiction, it seemed spot on to me that last year Florida State played like a team that was hungry. This year they play like a team that's already been fed. And again, I go into what Paul Feinbaum was saying, and it was a little tongue-in-cheek preseason, but when he's like, is there going to be maybe a hangover from, everything that didn't go their way last year? I'm sure a lot of it's talent, but there also does seem to be a hangover, Kenton, because the effort level has been poor.
Oh, absolutely. I also agreed. I said that Paul Feinbaum went too far talking about the tiers and all that, but objectively speaking, there was going to be a hangover from last season. There is always a hangover from teams that get really close and lose for the most part, unless you have a dynastic type of situation rolling to where you're looking up every year and that's who you are. That's the expectation. Generally, teams that do extremely well one year, they struggle mightily the next year. We saw TCU go to a national championship, beat Michigan, all the things. And the next year, their first game was a loss to the upstart Colorado Buffaloes, a team that I believe won how many games last year? 4? Was it 4? Okay. Yeah. We see this with Florida State this year. Same deal. You get close and you just cannot do the job. And then when you cannot do the job after getting close, and they weren't given the opportunity to do the job that they deserve, but they have that hangover. And playing like a team that's already been fed is interesting, because none of these players that are playing now, none of them are at the table to do the eating, with all due respect, especially offensively. Who on that offense was doing the eating? Was DJ doing the eating? No, he was in Corvallis. Well, their starting offensive linemen, I believe they got one from Bama, one from Florida. Were either one of those gentlemen at the table eating? No, you weren't eating. Was Roydell eating? No. You weren't eating. None of you were eating. So why are any of you playing like you're full? Defensively, same deal. Lots of new faces. Again, very disappointing performance. And the last thing I'll say about it is this. Donno, the lawsuits from Clemson and Florida State are about money. Are Georgia Tech and Boston College all of a sudden financial powerhouses? That you can't keep up. You can't keep up with them. You don't got the money to play around with the boys on Peachtree. Come on. Like, this is embarrassing. Square. This is as embarrassing of a performance as I have ever seen in a 2-game span by a team that was rated top 5 in the nation. I've never seen anything this bad.
Well, teams that are suing their conference are 0-3 to start the season this year. I just want to throw that out there. Just want to hang that out there. And we have a lot more to get to on this episode. Now, Kenton, and I think he's probably right about this, that so far this is about 30% on DJ Uiagalelei, and he's clearly not the only problem out there. But based on his first 2 performances, can you just keep starting him and pretend like you don't have issues? Is there a quarterback controversy in Tallahassee? We're going to talk about that and so much more. You want to keep it locked? We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, you're going to get addicted to this mobile game and simulation like I have. It's called Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of your favorite ACC team? I'm sure our guy AJ Black is, pretending he's Bill O'Brien right now after that win. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, it's also going to shape the future and the legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want to and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On ACC fans. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, as it's going to get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out our other shows. Both of the teams that Kenton and I cover are off to 1-0 starts. He hosts Locked On Wolfpack. I host Locked On Canes. We'll talk a little bit more later on about where the Pack and where the Hurricanes now sit with the odds to win the ACC. Now, most of these teams haven't even played a conference game yet. Florida State's already 2 games behind the 8 ball in the ACC. Now, Kenton, something that was noticeable, even watching the game on television last night, that the Florida State faithful, in being understandably disgusted with the way their starting quarterback was playing, started chanting for backup quarterback Brock Glenn, who got some PT, started a couple games last year. He's, I believe, a redshirt freshman this year, was a true freshman last year. They're chanting for Brock Glenn. Be careful what you wish for. And again, I know a lot of improvement can be made from a first year to a second year. I get that. But this is the same Brock Glenn who went 19 for 51, completing 37.3% of his passes last year, 229 yards total, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, I guess you get the young guy in, but I mean, Brock Glenn, are we sure that's what we want?
If you believe that this year is salvageable. And here's the thing. I don't want to put Brock Glenn's stats as like who he is at all, because he went through multiple things in terms of an ailment of some sort that kept him out through a lot of camp. He was injured as well at multiple times during the season, which kind of, didn't have him in much. And he was the 3rd string guy. So let's be very clear about it. He wasn't even a backup last year. He was the 3rd string guy. Here is what I will say, though. I have watched the Lions try to build teams from the outside in for 26 years of my life. I am telling you right now, if the core is rotten, if your big boys are soft, don't you put no brand new quarterback out there. Don't you do it. That young man's confidence will be destroyed forever behind a season where, say what you want about DJ. Donno, you watched the games like I did. Have you seen any of those receivers getting open?
No, that's another big problem.
So you expect this freshman to just be throwing guys open all left and right and getting Mahomey out there.
I mean, to be fair, the fade in the end zone was wide open.
Yes, it was. Here's the thing. And that's why I said I am not saying that DJ U has been good or he has not been a problem. That is a lie. To say I would trust Brock Glenn to hit certain passes, absolutely. But if I do not believe that Brock Glenn can do enough to make this team, to take this team up a level or two, I'm not doing it, because again, your running defense was not terrible late. It wasn't like, oh, we held them to 2 yards per carry until the 4th quarter when the defense was tired of being out there. No, that wasn't the case. From the start of the game, Boston College came out and said, hey, what are you softies over there doing? We're going to walk into your trap and take over your trap. And that's what happened. So I think that calling for Brock Glenn is calling for his destruction without realizing it. And I know some people would say, well, you've got to be tough enough to withstand. Okay. Did y'all not learn this lesson before? Didn't we see a very similar situation with this exact same team a couple years ago where you trotted out a guy that you probably shouldn't have, and he never became the player that he would have? And I believe that a larger part of that than people give credit to is the fact that he went out there with a team that was not good, And therefore, he got destroyed. His processing of the game was changed and distorted in ways that were unnatural, and he never got back on time and on target with what it should be. Don't do that to Brock Glenn. If anything, let DJU play his little 1-year rental out before he got to go learn some enterprise. Go ahead and let him do his thing as the $1 million quarterback or however many $100,000 quarterback that he is, and let him stink up the joint and say, you know what? Hey, this is a rebuilding year. We'll be all right with this one. But Florida State fans are just jumping out the window going way too crazy. And I'm not just talking about you, Mr. No 123. You know exactly who you are and why the entire internet is looking for you, buddy.
Yeah, so this guy, I'm gonna try to censor this as much as possible. This Florida State fan who up until late last night had a presence all over social media. He has deleted all of his accounts now, by the way.
Everything.
But
yeah.
This guy made a promise after the embarrassment in Dublin and before the even bigger embarrassment in Tallahassee. This guy promised he was going to eat dog excrement out of a red Solo cup. Like he promised, and he would film it if Florida State lost to Boston College. Well, as it became clear that Florida State was losing and was going to lose to Boston College, he said, see ya. He deleted all of his social media, and this guy will never be found again. And yeah, so, and another thing, like, kind of on that same note, we are proudly sponsored on the Locked On College Network by LinkedIn, and it's a big week for LinkedIn, Kenton, because there have been new profiles created by Billy Napier, head coach of the Florida Gators. He's got the open to work tag on there.
Yes,
and
sir.
DJ Uiagalelei, he's not quite yet open to work, but he's created his profile, and as soon as either he get benched or the season ends, whichever comes first, he is ready to add the open to work tag on there.
Well, Enterprise rental cars, they have a program with former student athletes to allow them to kind of get into the workforce and all that. So, DJ, don't worry about it, bro. I'm sure that there's a branch manager looking for an assistant manager of special projects or something like that for you to go on and do. Just don't do it in Tallahassee. You know what I mean? Just don't do it in
I remember Will Ferrell's character in Step Brothers. He shouted at Enterprise. They've got a great corporate structure, and they give you the tools to be your own boss.
Yeah, DJ, you about to get the tools to be your own boss, because being your own quarterback ain't working out for you, brother. It ain't working out for you. I was wrong about DJ. I was right about the conference being open, but I was wrong about how bad Florida State would be. I was wrong about how far the fall would be. I thought this would be a physical team who lacked the tools on the outside to get it done in big games and in big moments. But this is, when I watched it against Georgia Tech, I said, is Georgia Tech really good up front? Or is this a one-off? Or is Florida State really bad up front? You know what? Let's give it a couple more games. You're looking at a Boston College team who lost multiple pieces up front from last year.
Yeah.
This is not a Boston College team that just bought back a behemoth line of 5 guys that are all going to get drafted. And everybody expected them. Adazio ain't walking through that door. Like, that's an objective fact. He is, I believe he's on Miami staff now, isn't he?
No.
Oh, okay. I can't remember where Adazio is then. I don't know where he is in the world. Shout out to you, Steve. I hated all those big thigh running backs that you bought our way. But in all seriousness, that Boston College team pushed him around too, and I said, okay.
I think he's on the Texas A&M staff, maybe.
Or no,
he was. I don't think he is anymore. 2022 to 2023, he must have not survived the Jimbo thing. So he might be on LinkedIn Jobs as well right now.
Well, look at that. But objectively speaking, this Florida State team has looked horrendous up front on both sides of the ball. They cannot hold water offensively. They cannot stop any back. And it's crazy to think Ward left because he was not as good as Toffili, right? Like Benson and Toffili, he left because he could not crack that lineup. And yet Toffili finishes the day with 1 rush for 5 yards, 3 receptions for 13 yards, so 4 touches, 18 yards. Ward, on the other hand, his counterpart, finishes with 15 touches for 134 yards, 138 yards and 1 touchdown. Yikes.
Yeah, let's look at You talk about that, and you talk about the toughness, and I believe one of the stats that, because you can't really measure toughness, but one of the stats that hints in that direction are team rushing yards, right? Where Boston College 263 team rushing yards to Florida State's 21. 39 minutes and 9 seconds of time of possession, which included basically the entire first quarter. I think FSU ran 3 plays and a punt in the first quarter was all that they had. And let me see. I don't see on here the total number of plays run. It's not one of the stats on the sheet I'm looking at, but I'm sure that as the time of possession would indicate was probably 2-1 in Boston College's favor.
Yeah, and again, this was a situation where, at the end of the day, I wanted to say Georgia Tech still deserves their credit. Boston College still deserves their credit. Cassiano, I told everybody, Spencer McLaughlin, you got me for being wrong about Virginia Tech, but guess what? I'm coming back, maybe, because I told everybody Castellanos is not a star in the making. He is a star. He is a star,
right.
And he should.
Well, you got to tell that to Jackson Holzer on the Hangout, Locked On Q's, because on Syracuse. He said Castellanos is no good.
Oh, don't worry. The squad episode is coming, and Jackson, I bought the receipts, baby. I bought the receipts. He told me we're going to take care of Ohio. We're going to whoop the wheels off him. Don't worry, Jackson. The receipts are on the way. We will see you soon. But I really look at this situation, and I say to myself, you talk about team toughness, but again, there's a culture problem there. There's something going on that is not, I don't care what anybody says, with this level of talent, being this inept offensively and defensively, that's a culture problem. You cannot tell me I have a great culture, but we can't stop anybody from running the ball. I think Jamal Haynes is a good back. I do. I don't think he's 200 yards worth of good. I think Ward is a good back. I don't think he's 130 yards worth of good. I'm sorry. Against a team that has multiple guys on the back end that are supposed to be draft picks, allegedly the best defensive line in the nation, a senior linebacker that's been there forever and a day making plays. I'm sorry. Seeing this performance from them, the talent is there, the scheme and culture is not.
So, okay, let me throw this at you. And obviously, at the time that I was looking at these, this is the best time for just emotional knee-jerk stuff, because I did spend a little time, Kenton, kind of trolling the Noles 24/7 message boards last night during the game. Just spent a little time doing that, and I saw at least a half dozen threads created about how Mike Norvell is ripping everybody off, and people trying to imply he should be on the hot seat. The funniest thread that I saw was some guy suggesting that they actually now need to sue their players to get their NIL money back, recoup the NIL money. But the thing is, for as much of a disarray as Florida State has been in these first 2 weeks of the season, it's surely you can't actually think about Norvell being on the hot seat. I mean, to me, that seems absurd. Absurd.
No, not after 13-0. Even at a school like Florida State, 13-0 buys you some equity that at least gets you another year. If this year is a complete disaster, he'll at least, and even the start of next year is a complete disaster, he'll at least make it through the first half of next year before you cut him loose. You can't cut a coach loose after one bad season, if the season before that bad season was a playoff-worthy season. That's foolishness. Stop the tomfoolery. Stop the nonsense. And suing players for their NIL back. Go on somewhere with that. Stop playing. Stop playing. You paid the check. Okay, whether or not they're good, you paid the check. You did not pay them to win football games. You paid them for their services as football players. And I'm sorry to tell you, I'm sorry. And here's the funniest part about NIL. Technically, it's not pay for play. So you technically paid them to show up and do. You paid DJU to go to that Circle K and say, hey, you go ahead, listen to your boy. You got to get this slushy from Circle K. It's my favorite thing to drink. You paid him for that. He's on record. He may not be able to do much in terms of hitting open receivers, but you paid him for what he did. So, it's foolishness. And I'll say this. I'll leave this at this last thing. Pride cometh before the fall, almost certainly. Well, look at this. The hubris was there. The pride was there. We need more money because we can't compete. And then you go and get beat by teams with budgets that are minuscule next to yours.
This is why they need to be in the Big Ten. If they had been in the Big Ten, they would not have lost either of these two games. So we're going to take a quick look at the ACC landscape now when we come back, folks. We're not done yet. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. I'm certainly not done yet with 5 Hour Energy. They've gotten me through, my friends. Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot to stay alert to watch all your favorite games. If you stayed up late watching that Boston College win last night, take a 5 Hour Energy shot today so you can really get started today with 0 sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. On the site, you can even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. Get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Now, Kenton, this early in the season, I still don't put like too much stock on how the odds look to win the conference championship, because like a lot of the teams we're going to talk about haven't even played an ACC game yet. However, I can understand the big tumble that Florida State has taken. Now, the Seminoles, who started the season with the best odds to win the ACC, now have the 8th best odds to win the ACC, essentially right in the middle, 8 out of 17 teams at plus 4,200. And so the reason why Florida State has tumbled so far, it's not just being 0-2. It's being 0-2 in conference, because you would think there's probably 2 teams, whoever plays for the ACC Championship game, are probably going to have maybe 1 loss, or somebody may even go undefeated in conference. That being 2 games behind already, Florida State's, I mean, plus 4,200 might be too big of an opportunity for them to win the ACC at this point.
Florida State is already 2 games down. And let me ask you this, okay? Georgia Tech and Boston College. Do you see any teams that are supposed to finish in front of them in the ACC on their schedule still? I spy a Clemson in there. I spy a Miami in there. Heck, I even spy a Dirty Foot Club, the UNC in there. And I know that they just lost their quarterback and whatnot. But, you know, I'm looking at a situation where I'm saying, you're 2 losses down. Don't worry about no ACC championship right now. Don't think about anything with any championship right now. Worry about Memphis. That's what you do. Worry about beating Memphis. That's all. That's it. That's because at the end of the day, if we're still talking ACC championship with Florida State, you're delusional. Let me tell you why you're delusional. That team is 0-2, and they played 2 teams that were predicted to finish in the lower half of the conference by virtually everybody. And I get it. The predictions and virtually everybody means nothing, because while you're looking at 2 guys here with me and this guy who did not pick Florida State to win, everybody else picked them to win the conference. Everybody else, this is the squad. So I'm not worried about that. They have been knocked out of the big picture. So now everybody moves up 1. You see Clemson move up 1. You see Miami move up 1. You see NC State move up 1. Virginia Tech, you don't move up 1. You know why. But you see all of these teams move up 1.
You know what's crazy? Like Virginia Tech didn't move down as far as I thought they would. So Virginia Tech is still 2 spots higher than Florida State to win the. And again, they haven't lost any conference games. But
they haven't lost.
How confident am I in Virginia Tech after that Vanderbilt game?
They're just for 2.5 quarters of complete ineptitude, spotting your opponent nearly 20-point lead, and then saying, "Oh, I guess we can turn it on now." You're not that good, kid. But long story short, the ACC landscape. Donno and I told you the conference is wide open. It's what, in the words of Creed, with arms wide open, because that's what this conference is right now. The arms are wide open, saying, "Give me a champion, give me a winner, give me somebody that I can believe in." Because again, every team is either completely unproven in big games, or they floundered spectacularly to start off this season. So I'm interested to see how the rest of this thing plays out.
We'll see how it plays out. As we mentioned later this week, I think on Thursday, we're going to have the squad episode. And you see the gear that I'm wearing today, Kenton. Some trash will be talked.
Oh, yes.
We might just bully Brian Smith right off the panel this week.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, we going to keep Brian because we need more bald representation in here. Grayson and Jackson and all them showing up with full healthy heads of hair.
Yeah,
we need more hair. We need more representation for our follically challenged brothers on this show, even if it means that we got to give Florida State more of a platform than they damn deserve. But in all seriousness, I'm excited for the squad because there's some receipts that need to be. I remember a certain somebody putting popcorn in eyes when NC State was struggling against Western Carolina, only to then struggle against the MAC team. So I know something about some receipts that are about to be handed on down.
Well, that's going to be a good time. We'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We're part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.